Three corrupt cops thought they were cornering two helpless women in a dark parking lot. They had no idea they just locked themselves in a cage with two elite special forces commanders. Here's how 15 minutes of pure arrogance destroyed their careers forever. It started in a grimy dive bar. "Hey, you two. I think you better get out of here before things get complicated for you." Officer Brenda Coleman's voice cut through the country music playing in the bar. She and her two colleagues formed a tight semicircle around the twins' table. It was Friday night at Danny's Tavern, a dive known for being off-duty police territory. Amber lights barely hid the toxic tension building in the room. Danielle and Davina Thompson, 34-year-old twins, had barely touched their beers when the three officers approached. "Is there a problem?" Danielle asked calmly. "Officer." Her posture was too relaxed for someone being intimidated. Brenda, blinded by her own ego, didn't notice, but her partner, Officer Rachel Torres, caught it, a slight frown creeping across her face. "The problem," Brenda continued, resting her heavy hands on the table and leaning forward, a predator closing in, "is that this isn't exactly the kind of place for people like you, you know. We don't want any trouble." Davina, sitting next to her sister, finally looked up. Her eyes met Brenda's with a disturbing serenity. There was zero fear there, just the weary patience of someone who had seen this ugly movie play out 100 times before. "Trouble? We're just having a quiet beer." The third officer, Jackie Morrison, the youngest and clearly the most intoxicated, gave a harsh laugh. "Don't you get it? This bar is ours, our turf, and we don't like suspicious characters around here." A few customers turned their heads, but most continued to stare at their drinks, pretending not to see a thing. It was the kind of grim situation sensible people preferred to ignore. Three off-duty police officers ganging up against two black women who had committed the ultimate crime of being in the wrong place. Danielle exchanged a brief glance with Davina. It lasted no more than half a second, but in that instant, an entire conversation passed between them. It was the weight of years of shared experiences, of similar situations faced since adolescence, of learning together exactly when to fight and when to retreat. What Brenda Coleman didn't know, and couldn't possibly imagine, was that this moment of silence was not submission. It was a tactical assessment. Danielle mentally cataloged the room. Brenda's unprotected right flank, Rachel's hand hovering near her concealed carry, Jackie's drunken stagger. Meanwhile, Davina tracked the security cameras and mapped the exact steps to the exit. They weren't trapped, they were assessing the battlefield. "Look," Danielle said finally, "we don't want any trouble." Her voice maintained that irritatingly calm, steady tone that made Brenda instantly clench her fists. "Let's finish our drinks and leave. No fuss." "No." Brenda slammed her palm on the table, making the glass bottles shake. "You're leaving right now, and you're going to thank me for being in a good mood today." Brenda expected fear. She expected submission. Instead, Danielle just stared at her, burying a lifetime of dealing with bullies beneath a chilling, absolute patience. "You know," Davina said softly, taking her wallet out of her pocket in slow, deliberate motion, "it would be interesting to see your IDs, just to make sure you're really police officers, right?" Brenda's face flushed a deep red. "Are you challenging me?" Rachel Torres quickly put her hand on Brenda's shoulder. "Hey, let it go. They're leaving." There was something unsettling about the way the twins behaved that activated Rachel's survival instincts.
It was a chilling calmness that didn't come from fear. It came from confidence. Jackie, however, was too deep into her alcohol to recognize the glaring signs of danger. "You know what your problem is?" She pointed a trembling finger at Davina. "You think you can come here on our turf and act all cute? We run this town. You understand?" "This town," Davina repeated, and for the first time all night, there was something razor-sharp in her voice. "Interesting that you should say that." Brenda shoved Danielle's shoulder hard. "Get up, now." The entire bar fell dead silent. Even the jukebox music seemed to quiet down.
Louise dropped the glass she was drying and discreetly picked up her cell phone. Danielle and Davina stood up simultaneously, their movements synchronized in a way that seemed almost choreographed. They were exactly the same height, possessing the same athletic, muscular build that their casual civilian shirts couldn't hide. "We're leaving, but you're going to regret how you handled this situation." Brenda laughed loudly, a sound devoid of humor. "Oh yeah, we'll see who regrets it when I decide to search you girls outside. I'm sure I'll find something questionable." "You have no idea who you're talking to, do you?" It wasn't a threat. It was almost pity. "I don't care if you're queens of Africa," Jackie spat. "Here, you're nothing." The twins walked steadily toward the door, Brenda and her colleagues following closely behind like hungry wolves. Rachel Torres felt a cold chill slide down her spine, but she couldn't explain exactly why. Maybe it was the way the two sisters moved, not hurriedly, not fearfully, but with the flawless precision of people who are in total control of the situation. When they reached the door, Danielle stopped and turned. "One last chance for you to back down and apologize for what you did in here." Brenda puffed her chest out. "Or what?" Danielle smiled. It wasn't a smile of anger or defiance. It was something much more dangerous. Patience. The terrifying patience of someone who has already won the war before the battle has even begun. "Or nothing," she said calmly. "Just thought it was fair to warn you." The heavy doors swung shut. The trap was set. Before we reveal the brutal reality check these cops are about to get, hit that subscribe button if you believe dirty badges deserve zero mercy. The parking lot at Danny's Tavern was almost empty, with only a few spots occupied under the dim, flickering streetlights. Brenda Coleman shoved Danielle hard against the hood of a parked car, the cold metal pressing against her back. "You know what the problem is with people like you?" Brenda spat the words, her breath still foul with whiskey. "You think you can walk in anywhere like you're our equals." Jackie Morrison circled Davina like a sloppy predator, stumbling over her own feet. "I bet you have drugs. You always do." She let out a sharp laugh. "We're going to search you thoroughly." Rachel Torres watched nervously from the sidelines, her hand resting dangerously close to her gun, even though she wasn't in uniform. Something about these two women continued to bother her instincts, but the toxic alcohol and the heavy pressure from her colleagues were much stronger than her own caution. Danielle remained motionless against the hood, but her eyes moved constantly, calculating distances, angles, and vulnerable points. Pinned against the cold metal, Danielle didn't feel fear. She felt the familiar rush of a combat zone. 3 seconds. That's all she needed to snap Brenda's arm. Instead, she exhaled, letting the arrogant cop dig her own grave. "Hey!" Brenda slapped Danielle hard on the side of the head. "I'm talking to you." "You better be careful what you say," Davina interrupted softly, still not moving a single inch.
Her voice carried that same dangerous, unbroken calm as before. Some words can't be taken back. Jackie stepped forward, shoving Davina hard in the shoulder. Or what? Are you gonna sue me? Call the police? She spread her arms wide, laughing mockingly. We are the police, you idiot. Brenda patted down Danielle's pockets, her hands rough and invasive. Let's see what we have here. Wallet, cell phone. She tossed the items onto the gravel. That's a pretty expensive phone for someone who probably stole it, huh? Give that back! It wasn't a request. It was a direct order, spoken in the heavy tone of a commander who was used to giving instructions and having them obeyed instantly. Brenda picked up on the tone and became even more irritated, her fragile ego bruising. Or what exactly are you gonna do? Davina stood her ground. For a woman who regularly commanded the most lethal SEAL personnel on the planet, she knew that true discipline wasn't about brute force. It was about knowing exactly when to use the power you hold and when to let your enemy blindly walk off a cliff. Jackie tried to search Davina, but her shaking hands could barely reach her pockets. Freeze right there, Jackie ordered, but there was a glaring uncertainty in her slurred voice. Davina was at least 4 inches taller than her, and even while completely relaxed, her physical presence was deeply intimidating in a way Jackie couldn't quite define. Do you ladies have any idea how many laws you've broken in the last 10 minutes? Davina asked calmly. Harassment? Assault? Illegal search without a warrant or probable cause? Look at that! Brenda laughed loudly. The street lawyer giving us a law lesson. Rachel finally spoke up from the shadows, her voice tight and tense. Brenda, seriously, I think that's enough. They're leaving. Let it go. Brenda turned to her, furious. Since when did you get soft, Torres? These girls need to learn some respect. Across the dark parking lot, Louise watched from the bar window, her cell phone steadily recording everything. She had seen this ugly scene play out dozens of times before. Brenda and her gang picking on victims they thought were entirely defenseless. But tonight, something was fundamentally different. The two sisters didn't seem scared at all. They seemed patient. You know what I think? Jackie was getting bolder, heavily encouraged by the twins' apparent passivity. I think you guys came here looking for trouble. I think you wanted attention. She jabbed a stiff finger into Davina's chest.
People like you always want attention. Danielle and Davina exchanged that silent look again, half a second of pure communication. Anyone with elite military training would have instantly recognized it. It was flawless combat coordination, a tactical synchronization developed through years of surviving joint operations. Brenda yanked the steel handcuffs from her belt. You know what? I think we're going to take you down to the station after all. Suspicious behavior, resisting authority. Resisting. Danielle finally turned, squaring up to Brenda. We haven't offered any resistance, yet. The word yet hung heavily in the humid air, like a dark promise. Jackie stumbled backward again, her motor coordination failing fast. You don't understand how things work around here, do you? She gestured broadly at the empty lot. This is our city, our territory, and you're just visitors, Davina suggested, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Outsiders, or were you going to use another word? Jackie's face flushed a deep, guilty red. I was going to say you're a problem that needs to be dealt with. Brenda clicked the handcuffs open, the metallic sound sharp in the night. Hands behind your back, now. No. The entire parking lot fell into a dead silence for 3 whole seconds. Brenda blinked rapidly, as if unsure she'd actually heard the word correctly. What did you just say? I said, no.
Danielle slowly crossed her arms. "We haven't committed any crime. We are not going to be handcuffed, and if you try to lay a hand on me again, you will find out it was the absolute worst decision you ever made in your life." The sheer audacity of the words momentarily paralyzed Brenda. Nobody talked to her like that, especially not people she considered so far beneath her. "Are you threatening me?" Her voice rose a full octave. "Did you just threaten a sworn police officer?" "No," Davina interjected coldly. "She's warning you. There's a big difference." Rachel took a quick step back, her survival instincts finally winning out over her loyalty. "Kai, seriously, something's very wrong here. Let's just go." But Brenda was blinded by blind rage now. Her authority had been publicly challenged. "No, these two are going to learn today." She grabbed her shoulder radio. "I'm calling for backup. We're going to do this the hard way." "Right." Danielle laughed, a sound with zero humor. "You have no idea what's right." Jackie lunged. Davina simply shifted her weight. The drunk cop grabbed nothing but empty air. The dodge was so smooth, so efficient, that it almost seemed accidental. But Rachel saw it clearly, and she recognized elite combat training when she saw it.
"Brenda," Rachel said urgently, "stop this right now." "Shut up, Torres." The bar lights suddenly went out. Louise was closing up. In a few minutes, that dim parking lot would witness something that would completely destroy the lives of everyone involved. Danielle glanced down at her wrist, a Luminox Navy SEAL watch, discreet but unmistakable to anyone who knew what they were looking at. "You have exactly 1 minute to apologize and walk away." Brenda laughed directly in her face. "Or what?" "Or you'll find out," Davina replied, her voice like ice, "that there are very specific, brutal consequences for corrupt police officers who actively harass high-ranking military personnel." The phrase hung in the air like a pooled pin on a live grenade. Brenda frowned, her drunken brain slowly processing the words, military personnel, high-ranking. But before she could even ask, Jackie, operating at the absolute peak of her drunkenness and blind arrogance, made the worst possible choice a human being could make. She pulled out her steel baton. "Enough talk," Jackie growled, advancing forward. And that's when everything changed. What those three arrogant police officers couldn't have possibly known was that the next 30 seconds would be filmed in high definition, go viral, and utterly destroy not only their careers, but the entire network of institutional corruption they proudly represented. Because Danielle and Davina Thompson weren't just twins who knew some basic self-defense. They were highly trained human weapons, waiting patiently for the exact, perfect moment when self-defense would become not only legally justified, but devastatingly documented. Jackie's heavy baton sliced through the air, but it never reached its target. Davina simply moved her head 2 centimeters to the left, the bare minimum necessary. The movement was so economical, so precisely calculated that it seemed almost casual. Jackie stumbled heavily on her own missed momentum, staggering wildly forward. Before Brenda or Rachel could even process what had just happened, Danielle already had her phone in her hand, the camera lens glowing. "Filming unprovoked assault by an armed police officer," Danielle narrated to the recording. "Attempted assault with a blunt weapon against an unarmed civilian." "Turn that damn thing off!" Brenda lunged for the phone, but Danielle had already glided 2 flawless steps back, keeping a perfect, untouchable distance. "Interesting," Davina commented, pulling out her own cell phone and hitting record. "Now we have 2 officers attempting to illegally confiscate private property while actively committing assault." Rachel Torres finally understood. Her survival instinct screamed in pure panic. These women were no ordinary victims. The way they moved, how they coordinated complex tactical actions without speaking a single word, how they maintained perfect 360-degree situational awareness. They were military,
And probably not just military. They were special operations. "Brenda," Rachel pleaded urgently, physically pulling on her colleague's arm. "Stop, now!"
Why? Brenda shook off her touch. Are they recording? Great. I'll show the whole damn world exactly how we deal with criminals resisting arrest. That's when reality came crashing down. Louise walked out the back door of the tavern, her phone also raised and recording. "I've already called the county sheriff," she announced loud and clear into the night. "And I've just sent these videos to 3 local newspapers." "You're fired, Louise," Brenda growled like a cornered animal. "And your bar is getting a brutal health inspection tomorrow morning." "It won't." A sharp voice cut through the night. A woman in a tailored suit stepped out from a sedan idling in the shadows. She didn't just walk, she owned the pavement. "Because I am Assistant District Attorney Lisa Monroe, and I just personally witnessed 3 sworn police officers commit at least 7 heavily documented crimes." Brenda's flushed face instantly drained of all color. Lisa approached calmly, her golden badge opened and gleaming in her hand. "Harassment, intimidation, attempted assault, abuse of authority, misconduct." Lisa counted them off effortlessly on her fingers. "Shall I go on?" They started it," Jackie stammered, pointing a shaking finger at the twins. "They provoked us inside the bar." "Really?" Lisa raised a skeptical eyebrow. "Because the security videos I've already received show the 3 of you starting the confrontation and continuing to escalate it, even after being warned multiple times." Davina smoothly put away her phone and crossed her arms. A discreet, victorious smile played on her lips. "Prosecutor Monroe, long time no see." "Commander Thompson," Lisa nodded, a deep recognition in her eyes. Then she looked directly at Danielle. "Captain Thompson." The silence that fell over the parking lot was absolute and crushing. Rachel tightly closed her eyes, finally realizing the apocalyptic magnitude of their mistake. Brenda blinked several times, her drunken brain violently struggling to process the nightmare. Jackie simply froze in pure terror. "Wait, what?" Brenda finally managed to articulate, her voice trembling. Danielle stepped forward, her posture shifting. She was no longer projecting the calm of someone avoiding a confrontation. She was radiating the heavy, undeniable authority of a leader who commands troops in active combat. "Captain Danielle Thompson, United States Army, Ranger Battalion, currently serving as an instructor at West Point." Davina followed suit, her voice like steel. "Commander Davina Thompson, Navy SEALs, Team 6, currently on leave after 3 consecutive combat tours in the Middle East." Reality hit Brenda like a freight train. She had just assaulted 2 of the deadliest military commanders on the planet, on camera, with a live audience. That doesn't change anything." Brenda tried to regain some shred of authority, but her voice shook. "You still haven't identified yourselves as—" "We are not required to identify ourselves to civilians," Danielle cut in, her voice now carrying the crushing weight of military command. "And we are definitely not required to do so when we are being illegally harassed by off-duty, drunk police officers." Rachel took a massive step back, raising both her hands in surrender. "Look, there's clearly been a huge misunderstanding here. We can all just forget about this and forget." Lisa Monroe's voice was as sharp as broken glass. 3 armed, drunk police officers harassed 2 decorated military officers, attempted to illegally arrest them, and committed aggravated assault. You honestly think that just goes away? Jackie began to sweat profusely.
the alcohol finally wearing off, replaced by raw panic. We didn't know. If we had known they were military. Davina tilted her head, watching the color drain from the cop's face. You're only shaking because of our rank. Imagine if we were just two ordinary girls. You picked the wrong prey tonight. The heavy implication hung in the air. Brenda tried to play one final desperate card. You have no real proof of anything. It's your word against ours, and there are 3 of us sworn officers. Danielle smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile. Prosecutor, exactly how many videos do you have so far? 4 different angles, Lisa replied smoothly, consulting her glowing tablet. Louise started recording while you were still inside the bar. The Thompson sisters have clear footage from the parking lot, and I have the last 8 minutes from my dash cam. Oh, I added casually, twisting her wrist, and our watches record too. She showed off the heavy military-grade Luminox device. Encrypted audio and video, standard operational security protocol when we're in civilian territory. Brenda staggered backward, as if she'd been punched in the gut. In addition, Lisa continued, swiping through her tablet, I already have 3 witnesses from inside the bar who are more than willing to testify, and it appears that Danny's Tavern has security cameras that, surprise, actually still work. Rachel Torres sat down heavily on the dirty concrete curb, burying her face in her hands. She knew it was entirely over, not just for that night, but their careers, their pensions, their reputations, their entire lives as they knew them. What do you want? Brenda asked, her aggressive tone shattering into desperation. Money? We can pay. Apologies? I'll apologize right here, right now. What we want, Danielle said, her voice dead no nonsense, is the end of your careers. We're going to tear down everything you've built, badge by badge. Lisa nodded in agreement. Because I would bet my entire career that you 3 have a long history. How many other people have you harassed, Brenda? How many illegal arrests have you made? How many lives have you ruined simply because you thought you were above the law? Jackie was weeping now, hot tears streaming down her flushed face. My career! My family is going to kill me! You should have thought about that before, Davina replied, without a single shred of human sympathy. Before you decided you had the divine right to intimidate people just because they didn't look like you. The wail of sirens pierced the night. A sheriff's patrol car pulled into the parking lot, blue and red lights flashing against the brick walls. 2 veteran deputies got out, and Rachel instantly recognized one of them, an older officer who had never liked Brenda's corrupt crowd. Prosecutor Monroe, the deputy sheriff greeted her respectfully. We got your call. Are these the suspects? They are, Lisa confirmed coldly. 3 counts of criminal harassment, attempted aggravated assault, severe abuse of authority, and conduct unbecoming a public official. And believe me, that is just the beginning. As Rachel, Brenda, and Jackie were roughly handcuffed, the dark irony of the clicking steel not lost on anyone present, Brenda looked back at the twins one last, desperate time. How? She asked, genuinely confused. How did you set this up? Danielle exchanged a brief, silent glance with Davina. Then she looked back at the ruined cop. We didn't set anything up. You did it all yourselves. We just made sure it was properly documented. As the 3 disgraced officers were forcefully shoved into the back of the police cruisers, Louise approached the sisters. Thank you, she breathed out, genuine relief in her voice. These guys have been doing this for years. Nobody ever had the courage to stand up to them. How many? Davina asked sharply. How many other people? Louise thought for a heavy moment. Dozens, maybe hundreds over the years. It was always the exact same targets, anyone they considered different or weak. Danielle nodded slowly. something dark and resolute shifting in her expression. What had started as a simple act of self-defense was rapidly turning into a massive, systemic cleanup. Lisa put away her tablet. "You two are free to go. I'll need your formal statements tomorrow morning, but for tonight," she paused. "Is there anything else you want to tell me about these three?" The sisters looked at each other again, that silent communication that only combat veterans could truly share. "Maybe," Danielle said finally, "but first, we need to make some calls." Inside the squad car, Brenda's confiscated phone suddenly vibrated, then Rachel's, then Jackie's, a symphony of notifications exploding simultaneously. Brenda caught a glimpse of the glowing screen, and whatever color was left in her face vanished. The video had already gone viral. The hashtag #CorruptCopsExposed had hit 2.3 million views in less than 3 hours. Every single angle, the blatant harassment at the bar, the aggressive threats in the parking lot, the attempted assault with the baton, and worst of all, their faces, full names, and official badge numbers stamped clearly on every single frame. "Oh my God," Jackie whispered from the dark patrol car, watching her entire life crumble in real time. The internet comments were absolutely relentless. People from all over the county were identifying other cases, other forgotten victims. The local police department switchboard was being bombarded with furious calls. Danielle watched the digital execution unfold on Lisa's tablet, her expression neutral. 17 victims have already come forward, the DA reported, all with similar, horrifying stories. Some even have evidence.
Brenda tried to speak through the metal mesh of the patrol car. "We can fix this. Shut up," the veteran deputy sheriff ordered sharply. "You three are suspended without pay while a massive federal investigation is opened. And Brenda, your record is currently being pulled. Every arrest, every single report from the last 8 years is going under the microscope." Rachel sat in the back, crying silently into her handcuffed wrists. Her husband had already called the station. He had seen the video. He had already called a lawyer to file for divorce. The mortgage on their house, her son's college tuition, everything relied heavily on the salary and pension she had just permanently lost. Davina crossed her arms, staring at the cruisers. "You had multiple chances to stop, every warning ignored, every opportunity to walk away wasted." The deputy sheriff approached the twins. "Captain Thompson, the Pentagon just called. They want your full incident reports for possible additional military prosecution against any officer who has illegally interacted with active duty military personnel." Brenda vomited inside the back of the patrol car. By the time the sun came up, 7 major national news outlets had covered the explosive story. By the afternoon, the city's mayor had announced a complete, immediate overhaul of the entire police department. By the evening, the 3 former police officers were formally facing a combined 23 criminal charges. Louise had reopened her tavern. Now there was a massive line out the door. Everyone in town wanted to buy a drink at the exact place where the city's most corrupt officers had finally, brutally met their absolute justice. 6 months later, Brenda wiped down a sticky diner table, the TV above broadcasting Major Thompson's latest Pentagon briefing. Brenda killed the power to the ancient screen, the heavy silence crushing her. Arrogance bought her the badge, but true justice demanded her total ruin.